Timing is a big thing because if somebody plans on being in Eau Claire for only 2 years and then they're moving out of state to another job, I just had somebody from Kayak. Hey guys, Dan Seth here. So today we're going to be talking about renting versus buying and what are the pros and cons of each. So if you're thinking about moving to Eau Claire, that's one of the things you're probably contemplating. Should I rent? Should I buy? If you're moving from out of state, give us a call. We work with people out there who are relocating from all over the country every single day. We have inbound calls from all over the country, Texas, Iowa, California. Just in the past couple of days, we had somebody from California and Iowa reach out to us. So it's really interesting when people reach out to us. So that's what we do. And if you are interested in buying or moving to this area, make sure you reach out to us. My phone number is in the description below. And also comment and like this video too. If you like these videos and you want me to keep putting more content out there about what it's like to live in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. If you guys are interested in learning a little bit more about what it's like to live in Eau Claire, stay tuned. One of the first big questions I get from somebody who are considering relocating from somewhere else in the country to Eau Claire, Wisconsin is whether I should rent or whether I should buy and what are the pros and cons of each. And it's really hard for me just to answer that up front without diving a little bit more deep into somebody's lifestyle, what their goals are, what their timeline is, what their budget is, and a lot more information about their actual lifestyle itself. So my first question to somebody is when they're moving to Eau Claire, whether they should buy or rent is going to be, well, what's important to you and how long are you going to be here for? Timing is a big thing because if somebody plans on being in Eau Claire for only 2 years and then they're moving out of state to another job, I just had somebody from California yesterday reach out to me, say that they're gonna plan on renting for 8 months and then they wanted to buy and then they're gonna leave 3 years after they move to Eau Claire because they're gonna pick up another job somewhere else in the country. Well, in my opinion, I recommended that they actually just plan on renting the whole 3 years so they can kind of get settled into a rental property versus buying. Reason is because buying is not very simple process, but neither is selling. Selling is a kind of a complex process that we take here at Dan Realty Group. But yeah, it's a little bit more of a 3, 4, 5+ year thing versus I want to live somewhere for 2 years and then sell the house. It can work. We certainly have a lot of clients who buy and sell within 2 years. But if somebody only plans on living in this specific area, I would recommend somebody who is just going to own a house for 2 years to actually just rent for those additional 2 years. On the flip side, if somebody plans on moving here and staying here for the next 15 years, for sure buy. Number one reason is every month you make that monthly payment to your landlord, you're throwing money right out the door by not building equity in your property. So that brings me into my next pro of owning versus renting is when you make a monthly payment on your home, that monthly payment goes directly towards your mortgage. And each month you make a payment, it gets chipped down. So you're building equity in your home. You can't do that when you rent a property. That rental paycheck is going to the landlord and they're taking that paycheck and chipping down at their mortgage. So they're the ones that are building the equity. And really my goal for everybody who we work with here at our real estate company is to help them build wealth. And buying real estate is one of the best ways to build wealth because everybody has to have a roof over their head. Everybody is going to have a cost that is associated with renting and or owning. Personally, I'd rather be making a paycheck that's going towards my own investment versus somebody else's investment. Furthermore, renting, generally speaking, is going to be a little bit more costly than just owning a home. And at first, when I first started renting in my early college days, I just couldn't understand why it was actually cheaper to rent or why it was cheaper to actually own a home versus renting. Well, think about this. The landlord needs to be able to make a profit to be able to sustain the building, to do maintenance on it, and also to make an income for themselves. So they have to increase the price. They have to increase the price, the market value on their rental property for you to stay there for it to be a viable business. So basically you're paying for a service versus when you own your own home, you own that asset. You don't have to pay for that service. You basically pay for your mortgage, but you're not paying for somebody to service your home. cons of owning a home, such as you have to do maintenance yourself. You have to figure out lawn care, whether it's paying for a lawn care guy or it's doing your own lawn, which you might still have that at a rental property. So depending on whether you're in an apartment situation or if your landlord takes care of the snow and lawn care, which of course those are going to be up marks as well. So keep that in mind. So overall, renting is going to be a little bit more expensive in the long run. That's why I say if somebody's going to be here for 3 or more years, I would say owning would probably be the better option. Versus if you're going to be here the less than 3 years, then I would probably steer somebody towards a rental path. Another thing to consider is whether you have animals or not. I was just talking to our office manager, Morgan, back here. She's renting a property right now where their management company charges $50 a month plus a $300 cleaning fee when you move out of the house if you have an animal. So that tells me that it's going to be about an extra at least $600 more a month to rent a property with an animal. And actually $50 a month is on the low end. I have heard anywhere from $50 a month all the way to $100 a month additional for an animal, versus if you own a house, you don't have to pay any additional fee or cleaning. You just take care of that yourself. And so that is a major pro for owning. Another thing is that Eau Claire is not generally very pet friendly. So when it comes to finding an apartment in the first place that allows a pet, that's a struggle in the first place. There's a lot of places that are advertised as no pets allowed. Another thing to consider that when you're going to rent a property, prices are almost always non-negotiable. Landlords are not going to lower their price if you want to negotiate on price. And another con of renting is that once you live in an apartment and your lease is up, if you're on a month-to-month lease, the landlord can literally kick you out of the house and or raise your rent at any point that they want to. If you're on a year lease, that landlord has the option to raise your rent by $100. There's no legal ramifications for them doing that because that's what your contract states, and they can renegotiate prices or terms when your lease expires at the end of the year, or they can simply just kick you out of the house. Another downside of renting is going to be simply finding a property. I know I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but why is it tricky to find a rental property? Number one, the supply is super low right now. There's a high demand. People are moving here from all over the country, and there's college students in town. So it is an interesting supply demand curve. And right now we have a low supply, a high demand. And another tricky part about renting is that real estate agents like myself, we can't represent renters here in town. It's not a thing around here. So you actually have to go directly to the property management company and or owner to request a showing. Oh, everybody say hi to Daisy quick here. Hi, Daisy. What would you say? Would you recommend renting or owning, Daisy? I would recommend owning because nobody charges extra for me. Oh, is that true? So sweet. Another one of the reasons why I recommend owning if you're going to be here more than 3 years is there are several great financial benefits of owning a property. So the second thing that I wanted to mention is appreciation. Real estate appreciates at about 3.5 to 4.5% per year. So that means if you have a $100,000 property, that property is going to be worth about $104,000 a year from today. Now we all know if you're not going to find a property for $100,000, but more realistic, it's a $200,000 property. Appreciation of 4% over the next year, that property is going to be worth about $208,000. So you can really see the financial benefit of owning a property long term. Now, it's not like you can use that $8,000 of equity the next year when that property appreciates that much. However, now think about this. Say you own a property for 10 years, and when you go to sell that property, now that property is worth about $260,000. You go to sell that property to buy your next property. Now you've not only have been paying down your mortgage on a monthly basis, but you also have had that appreciation over a 5 or 10 year period. So really you're gaining all this space between my hands represent all the cash equity that you're building up in your property over time. Debt pay down, appreciation. That is the main reason why I recommend people buying if they're gonna live here for more than 3 or 4 years of time. Another great thing about owning is that when you do move out, if you didn't want to sell your property, you could always think about renting it out. Now, being a landlord is not as blue skies and sunny shine as you might think. I'm a landlord myself. Not everybody wants to be a landlord, and I don't blame you. So if you are thinking about being a landlord, feel free to reach out to me. I own rental properties myself. That's what I love investing in properties and renting them out. And last but not least, one of the most common questions I get is, when is the real estate market going to dip down again? And people have been asking me that for the past 4 years, and honestly, I don't know. Nobody really actually has an accurate description. Nobody knows when that's going to happen. That's forecasting, and forecasting is always a guess. The one thing I do know is a lot of people are buying right now or getting worried that the market might crash. One thing to keep in mind is that I think a lot of people's fear kind of stem back to the last time the market dipped. Historically, that was the most insane market crash ever in history as far as real estate goes. So for the whole reason that the actual crash happened in the first place was because banks were handing out loans to people who could not afford these loans. In conclusion, guys, if you are thinking about renting or buying, make sure you reach out to us for further questions. And I love to work with you guys because we can add so much value to you. Don't try to do this by yourself. I know we're one of the only YouTube channels that is kind of explaining what it's like living in Eau Claire. And there's a reason for that, because we are one of the best people at figuring out exactly this, do this all day long. So feel free to reach out to us. Hopefully this channel was, or this YouTube video was helpful for you guys figuring out your decision between renting and buying. If you are buying, make sure you reach out to us. If you're renting, make sure you drop a comment. I can recommend places to look for rental properties. But in the meantime, I hope you guys have a great day and talk to you soon. Bye.